world is at war, and humanity is losing. The continent of Delea has been besieged by the forces of the Dread, an amalgamation of seemingly disconnected supernatural threats that fell upon the world 3 years ago. The armies of the Bone Legions struck first, devastating much of the northern Grimwald and the Summer Shore. The murderous harmonies of the Chant have fallen upon the east and threatened the capital. In the north, the fallen folk have returned en masse to reclaim the lands of Scavia. And no one even knows about what goes on in the depths of QueueTimes. For 3 years, the human armies have lost every engagement, and 1/3 of all human cities have fallen to the Dread. It is in this dark hour that the Phoneixes of Dawn Command have returned. Phoneixes are humans who have returned from death, passed through the Crucible, emerged from the Imperial Flame, and imbued with great power. Together, from the Grand Eyrie, located in their volcanic temple on the island of Pyre, they deploy to Eyries throughout the known world and learn about and combat the Dread. Our story begins with the formation of the newest wing of Dawn Command, Wing 023. They come from different places, different circumstances, different perspectives, and indeed, different times. Defeating the Dread will require them to overcome those differences, understand their great powers, and confront their traumas. For indeed, the fate of the very world may come to depend on the shrouded Phoenix Veil, the bitter Phoenix Smoke, the devoted Phoenix Rama, and the forceful Phoenix Crash. They are Wing 023 of Lion Flight, 4th Squadron, Dawn Command. I am your Game Marshal, Eddie Doty, and this is Operation Emberfall. Hi, everybody. So, this is Operation Emberfall. This is your wing. If you have never played Dawn Command before, or even heard about it, you're going to learn a lot about it, but you're going to learn more about it through gameplay. We got 2 hours. We're going to keep it tight. And we start. Our scene begins in the Grand Eyrie. Each of you are on a mandatory night's rest. For a while, as Phoenixes, you do not require food or drink or sleep. Your minds are still human. And your mental health needs to be looked after. So you have mandatory sleep periodically, and you awaken to a red candle in your rooms that ignites. And with that, we shift to the briefing room. The Elemental Phoenix Rupture is the newly appointed squadron commander of 4th Squadron. And even though he's unanimously chosen by all 5 of his marshals, he has doubts. He is flanked by his executive officer, Zephyr, the shrouded Phoenix, Query, and the bitter Phoenix, Rancor. As he combs his hand through a sand table, he realizes he is more nervous than he should be. For this is simply a reconnaissance mission. It's very straightforward. And yet, he feels there is something just below the surface. As he waits, he looks about the room, notices his support staff, until the door bursts open and Wing 023 enters. I would like you all to tell me who and what Rupture sees. Let's go ahead and start with Eliza.
Rupture sees a medium to tall-ish heighted brown-skinned woman with the sides of her head shaved, and down the center there are long dreadlocks. She is fairly slender in her frame, probably a very strong muscular lower body. She's wearing robes that are like dark, deep blue at their core, but then they have accents and fringes that are like whiter and maybe some teals and things like that. Her outfit looks like the robe presentation of a tsunami, basically. And you would notice when you look at her that she has a kind of, the robes kind of preternaturally wave as if they are in fact an actual tsunami on her body, but in the form of her clothing.
When Rupture looks at Smoke, what does he see?
So when Rupture looks at Smoke, they see someone between the ages of 11 to 13. I describe them looking kind of like a young tree or a sapling, so their limbs are like, you can tell they're still growing. If they existed in our world, they would be of South Asian descent, but my character's skin tone is a little bit darker than mine. Smoke wears a dark linen shirt as well as dark red flowing pants. Their hair is also a little bit shorter than mine. It actually looks like it's been severed off a la Mulan, just with like jagged edges. They wear a gold collar, and in their right hand they hold their talon, which we can get to later. But they have a pretty stoic, serious, grim expression, and if you stick around long enough to see them crack a grin, you'll realize it's not a grin, it's them baring their teeth, and they have 2 rows of wolf's teeth. Their pronouns are whatever they feel like in the moment, so you'll hear me switching between he, she, they, and it's whatever you want it to be. That's Smoke.
Rupture's head kind of curiously cocks to the side as he takes some smoke, and his eyes shift to Vale.
As he looks at Vale, he notices that if she were wearing robes, he wouldn't notice her at all. She's average height, average build. She has her hair in a bun, but it's a very rich brown, average color, except for when you look very closely at her skin, which looks like gold fabric that continues down into a shawl, which she's currently wearing loosely around her neck with her talons stuck into it.
Fantastic. And we'll talk about talons in a little bit. Shifting his eyes over, he sees Rama. And what does Rama appear like to him?
Rama's extremely tall, 6'6", with like extraordinarily waist length long twists, half up in a bun, with her devoted symbol sort of projecting and floating atop it. Her skin is a dark brown and her hair would be white if light hit her properly, but she looks like she's always standing in the middle of like twilight just before the dark comes. Her eyes are always shut, and across her face from her nose down to her neck is this massive like metal mask that looks like punched lantern tin, and every time she opens her mouth, like, a little bit of light pours out. Her robes are long, and they're these swirls of purples and deep oranges and the beginnings of blue, like the twilight, the end of the sunset before dusk falls. And she has a giant shepherd's crook in her hand with a lantern at the end.
It's funny you mentioned sunset because that is the time of the day right now. The briefing room is, as most of the Grand area is carved out of living volcanic stone, and chunks of obsidian and veins of various minerals can be seen throughout, but the craftsmanship is fairly solid. There are some glassless window portals, portcullises that overlook the sea. It's quite nice. It looks really lovely. In the hall, you see a giant sand table. In your very first emergence from the Imperial Flame, you are familiar with this sand table and its properties and what it can do. At the head of the table is Rupture, your squadron commander. To his right is Zephyr, a rank 5 forceful phoenix, indicated by the forceful symbol on one arm and half chevrons numbering the number 5 on the other forearm. In addition, your squadron S2, your intelligence officer, is the Shrouded Phoenix, a rank 4 phoenix. And in the background, lifting crates and being sort of grumpy about it, is a rank 3 bidder by the name of Rancor. Zephyr looks to you, and Rusher looks to you and says, all right, 023, fall in. We're a little short on time, so if you don't mind, the quartermaster will start to equip you while we talk. Is that okay? All right. Zephyr, will you start us off? Zephyr points over to the candle wall, which normally is in the flame chamber. Candle wall is a series of 49 sets of 5 tea lights in a row, made up of small candles, some more used than others. Smoke, this was the candles you attempted to chop in half in our session 0. But you have since learned, as part of a communication system, connecting the various Eries scattered throughout Delea to here. Zephyr steps towards the candle wall and says, all right, a lot of this you'll know. In Delea, there are 49 Eries, most of which were built hundreds of years ago. Currently, we got 16 that work. Each Erie can communicate with us here via these candles, 5 candles per Erie. Matching set here, matching set there. The idea is that if an attendant at an Erie wants to communicate something to us, they light the candles on their end, and boom, ours ignite and match. The pattern and order with which they ignite can communicate a series of rudimentary messages, yeah? Okay. So, as you can see, there are 16 sets of candles that we currently have some kind of message active. All right? Query? Query steps up. Query is a rank 4 shrouded phoenix. As phoenixes rank up, their gender becomes less and less present. Let's see. Aaron, what are some of the things you notice about Query's appearance? What stands out to you?
Just in general, what would?
Yeah, what would? You're helping create this character. What exactly stands out to you?
Because of her past history as a seamstress, Vale notices everyone's clothing, the make of it, how much construction time went into it. If it's an older type of fabric or using older techniques, she might even be able to tell you exactly how it was done. After that, she'll notice figure because that goes along with garment making.
Copy that. Okay. Query steps up. Let's see. Abria. What do you notice about Query's face? Expression, bone structure, anything, makeup, anything about them stand out to you?
Query is sort of visually has tried to make themselves look very much like a puzzle. Makeup in like large blotches of color that hide micro expressions that Rama is trying very hard to read for to see how they feel about the group sort of falling in and trying to pick up like nonverbal signals, but their face is very specifically like angularly a mask, and they are hiding their true feelings behind this sort of like placid look.
Got it. Okay. With all the cues you've given me, I can tell you that Query doesn't appear to actually make foot contact with the ground. They just sort of slide across the room. Like there are legs there. You get that. You right? Like, yeah, there are legs. Okay, cool. Just checking. But they make their way to the candle wall, and they have a very deliberate look. Their talon, made of Purian metal, is a long chain with a clockwork wind-up pocket watch that lays with them. They raise it, and Query begins to speak. For the last 6 months, we've been trying to reignite the heroes of the areas to establish and grow our presence throughout the continent. To do so takes an investment of time, personnel, and ash. That is to say, the number of active Eries is always a known static number. They hold up their watch and look at it. Phoenixes, please direct your eyes to the board. 12 seconds and counting. Your eyes go to the board, and certainly you see 16 sets of candles in a static state. The other candles that are not lit, not only are they not lit, they're dusty. And then, out of nowhere, the 12th set of candles flickers. Flickers again. Flickers into a random pattern. Bursts with wide orange fire, and then immediately cuts off. Flickers twice more, and then nothing. Query continues. It started 3 days ago. The area in Loch Myongo has been abandoned for 110 years. It is located in an isolated plateau on the hillside overlooking the sea. It is notoriously difficult for mortals to reach it and was designed primarily as an observation post for phoenixes. And now, someone or something is active within it. They step back. Rupture, who has been quiet since the intro, raises his hand over the sand table, and in this mix of volcanic sand and ash rises a full-scale map of Delea, which can be found on the back of the book. Rupture, without taking his eyes off the map, says to you, Wing 023, your mission is to enter the Loch Myongo area, access its flame chamber. You will observe and assess the hearth, the candles, and ascertain the cause of this anomaly. If the source of this anomaly is determined to be the dread, well, you will terminate the source by whatever means available to you. Zephyr reapproaches you. The closest area to Loch Myongo is named Morning View, near the Sunset Coast. It is roughly 50 miles inland, so it's a bit of a walk. We were not able to establish transportation for you, so unless another opportunity presents itself, you're going to have to proceed on foot. Once the area is secure, however, you can proceed back to Sunset, where a Wendari ship by the name of Eternity will bring you back to Pyre. The Morning View Eyrie has an active garrison of 10 adepts, 15 guardians, a flamekeeper, and her apprentice. They know you're coming, and they can provide you with navigation to the Loch Myongo. Phoenixes, are there any questions? At this time, if there are no questions, go ahead.
Oh, I think Rama, she steps forward and like a little bit of light scatters from her lantern on the ground that tries to replicate the pattern on the wall as she just sort of looks over at, who was the one? Query, over at Query, and just tries to, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and give me, and so your purpose with this, just so I'm understanding, like what
she's trying to figure out, like she wants to know what that flashing pattern was and is trying to not ask outright about it.
Got it.
And I think Smoke actually like stood off to the side and was trying to make eye contact with Rama and was opening and closing his mouth.
Okay.
To try and tell you, I want to see if we can replicate that.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead and give me an intellect spread.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and give me an intellect spread. And while you do that, while you pull your cards, this is a great way for me to introduce the card mechanic. Each of the Phoenixes here in this game has a deck of cards with 3 separate suits of intellect, strength, and grace. They do action, defense, and skill checks by taking a certain number of cards out of their hand, presenting them, adding sparks, which is a pool of mystical energy as a modifier, as well as using narrative tie-ins to justify the use of more and more cards. With that, Vale, what did you make for your spread?
So
and let's go ahead and show the cards on camera.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I've only got, sorry about that. So I've only got 2 intellect cards in my spread, but they're both 4.
Okay. What are your skill specialties again?
Diplomacy, healing, spirits, and tradition. I would love to try to lean this towards it's either tradition, trying to like have a sense of pattern. Okay, yeah.
Tradition, yeah, it's definitely tradition. So if you have a grace card in there as well, you can go ahead and add that.
Perfect. Then I'll add in this grace card. So now we've got a total of 11 plus 5.
For your skill specialty. Okay.
Yeah, so 16 total.
Got it. Okay, so you know the candle code system. So for instance, all 5 going at once is like danger, deploy immediately. 1-0-0-1-1 in that order, like on, off, on is generally like situation stable. The only thing you know about this pattern is that it's completely random. The flames usually do not have the fluctuation in intensity. This is not a message known to any Phoenix or as any demonstrable pattern. It seems purely random and chaotic.
Sweet. I think very like quietly under her breath, just enough so that Smoke can hear. She says, "It's nothing. It's random," and then gives a little smirk in their direction.
From outside of your viewpoint, Query goes, "Yes, we know, but very good. You are learning your candle codes better than we expected." The other thing that happened during this entire briefing, and the bitter quartermaster was so stealthy about it, is that on your LBE, your harness, that's part of your uniform, he has attached a loadout of gear. So if you want to make a note of this, each of you now have 50 feet of hempen rope. You have 2 civilian bandages. You have 2 oil-soaked torch heads, so just rope that has been soaked in like a castor oil that you can tie to a stick and make a torch out of. You have 2 sets of flint. You have 2 ash containers on your belt loop. And on your back harness, you now have about 25 feet of what's called drop cord. You know what drop cord is because you've seen Phoenixes drop into the Imperial Flame, although you're not quite sure how this is supposed to work. No one's really had a conversation with you about that yet. But all of that is just on you now. You have a page who is a human by the name of Godfrey. He is 5'2", and he approaches you and goes, "All right, Phoenixes, when you're ready, we'll just come with me and we'll get you set up for your drop."
I mean, yeah, Rama's gonna immediately follow.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Smoke falls into line. Smoke checks the 25 feet of drop cord, kind of like looks at it quizzically, but she's not going to question exactly. It's more of like, how the frick am I supposed to use this?
I'll tell you what you see on a skill check observation. It's like a really dry rope, kind of like abandoned playground swing rope. Like it's just really dry and crunchy and frayed. When you squish it, it feels really granular, almost like it's just it's so old it feels like it's breaking apart inside. It doesn't look like stable at all. It doesn't look like you could suspend from this thing. Maybe you could, Smoke, because you are small, but the rest of you would not be well with this.
Copy that.
Before you leave, and or as you make your way from the briefing room to the flame chamber, if anybody would like to, from the time you walked and get set up for your drop, you have a bit of moment to talk, to observe, to make any kind of check if you want to. That is for the entire group.
I would like to take one of the ash containers off of my harness to get a better look at it. And I also say out loud for the group to hear, "So this is where we go when we die next time, huh?"
Temporarily?
Temporarily.
Look on the bright side. At least we'll become part of the defense machine.
Yeah. It would be a better way to go probably than the first time.
Yeah, Vale kind of tenses up at the mention of the first time and just turns away and starts following Godfrey.
I have no intention of dying before any of you, so do your best to stay alive.
Yes, sir.
Rama just sort of laughs quietly and continues to walk.
So you'll start to walk. To answer your question, Eliza, you look at the container. And it's not Paraean steel. It's not the steel forged from the hearths here that has magical, sort of mystical energy qualities. It's not the same material as your talons, right? But it is a very sturdy canister. Like, it doesn't ding very easily. Like, it's not a flimsy, it's thin, but very, very strong, folded steel almost. It has there's no screw top to it. It's just a pressure top with what feels like some sort of hermetic seal on the inside. So waterproof. It just feels very sturdy, very solid. It's wrapped in a little bit of a cloth so that it can attach to your belt loop really easily. But other than that, it's fairly conventional. It does not seem overtly magical in any real way.
What size is it?
I was about to ask that.
Great question. Cylindrical, more vertical than wide, about yay big, right about there, each one. So the idea being, if one of you were killed and turned to ash, all of your ashes could probably fit into a canister about yay big. Cool.
So it's like 16 ounces, 12 ounces.
Yeah,
16 ounces.
a little bit smaller than my water cup here. Just like maybe about there. You know?
Okay, yeah.
We're like a
Great.
really big Red Bull of ash.
Right.
Well, that's bigger than that because those Red Bulls are small. I would say more like a Nom or a Rockstar Zero Carb, but that's
right.
one man's opinion. Okay. You make your way through and you enter into the flame chamber, and you can't miss it. In the center of the flame chamber is the Imperial Flame. This is the font of energy. This is the fire from which you all emerged when you were reborn as phoenixes. You feel a pull there. You feel comfort from there. It's a giant bonfire, but it doesn't blast heat in the same way a conventional fire does. There is a wind that seems to kind of come from it. It's a hot, dry wind, but not uncomfortable. You do get the sense that it has a different effect on mortals. They're a little more tentative and also a little more reverent. The mortals who occupy Dawn Command are essentially one of two classes. The adepts, who are much more attendants, almost like monks, if you will, and then the guardians, which are the mortal armies who support and buffet the Dawn Command forces. They are wearing traditional armor. They usually have a pole arm, not dissimilar from a naginata or a thin glaive. They're very uniform, very structured. If the analog of Phoneix Dawn Command of the Phoenixes is much more like flight, wing, squadron, they're more like platoon, battalion, company kind of thought. You make your way in. And the thing that you're noticing, you've seen it before, but the thing you're noticing this time is that you're on the 5th floor of a 7-floor structure in this volcano. Vaulted ceiling. So a floor here is like 3 floors in a traditional modern building. It's got a roof, except above the Imperial Flame. It's got a perfectly circular cutout. And then the floor above that, a perfectly circular cutout that leads just to sky. And you know that the smoke that this bonfire generates can be seen probably from a great distance. Your page leads you up. Go ahead, Revi.
No, I think you see smoke linger on the smoke. And he looks up at it and just says west before continuing after you guys.
You make your way up a spiral staircase to the 6th floor. Never been here before. There's a human with a leather jacket and sort of a skull cap made of leather and some goggles that are on. Big, thick gloves. A lot of harnesses and straps. You see that no matter where he walks, he's always clipping something to some rail so he doesn't fall into the thing. But for him, it's very safe. For you, it feels a little different because you're essentially on a plankway that leads directly over the Imperial fire. This man comes up to you and he says, "Hey, everybody. I'm your jump master. My name is Wilhelm. We're going to have a great jump today. I understand we're going to the Sunset Erie, that's right. Yeah, Sunset? Yeah?
Sunset?
Okay.
We're going to Sunset?
Yeah, you're going to Sunset Erie because your mission is deploying you to Loch Nyanko, and that's the nearest one. So you're going to the Sunset Erie. Okay, it's morning.
No.
We're going to the Morning View Erie.
Yeah, it's the Morning View Erie near Sunset. It's like right outside of Sunset. It's
Okay.
It's the nearest one in there. My apologies for forgetting what I wrote. So that's what we're going to drop you into. I'm sorry, what was that?
We're going to see Sunset? We're going to see the town of Sunset?
You can see it from a distance, yeah. You can see it like near there. Like just outside of it.
You all would see Crash just kind of seem shaken and weirded out for a second.
Crash, what's wrong?
I just didn't think I would see it again so soon. That's where I lived, where I died. I don't know. I don't even know how much time has passed, to be honest. How much time has passed? Well, I guess you wouldn't know. No one else would know. I guess I'll find out.
The year, if you need to, I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the year is 359. So whatever year you think it is, just, you do the math. We're not great at math, but if you do the top number there and the other number there, and you just take it out of that, you'll get the difference. Okay, so we're going to jump. I think what we're going to do, y'all have your cables, yeah? All right, so he goes behind you. He unspools your cords. He attaches them to a thin pole that is directly above you, one by one. All right, nothing much for you to do now. We're just going to wait for Cinder to go ahead and give us the go-ahead. When you see that candle, and he points to a red candle, when you see when that candle go, just walk and step off. No big deal, all right? You'll land just fine. And he walks away.
He said no big deal, but
So I realize we can't technically die, but there still wasn't a less terrifying way for this to be done.
Yeah. Oh, and we can die, I think.
Well, yeah, but we're here already, so we'll just come right back here.
Smoke holds up a canister, helpfully, at the mention of death. At least we are prepared.
We have a backup plan.
We are prepared.
I look over the edge and I'm actually like really excited.
Yeah, Smoke is also ready to go.
Rama does not like
not
this.
in favor of this at all.
So with that in mind, can I get a marching order real quick? And we'll have a minute to kind of RP this, but if I can just get a quick marching order so I can jot down who's in first and who's taking up the rear.
I am fighting for back.
Smoke is fighting for first.
I'll be second.
That would make Vale third.
Yeah, that's our marching order.
Yeah.
All right.
Rama just keeps walking towards the back, like, I'm tall, so I can see.
Yeah, no, Vale's going to grab her by the arm.
Actually, yeah, go ahead. If you, Rama, if you haven't drawn back up to your hand limit, do so now, and go ahead and give me a. Actually, no. Delay that. Crash. If you want to give me a grace check for any kind of observation, perception, scouting, anything like that.
Sure, yeah, okay. I have just 3 regular, lovely, non-trait grace cards.
Okay.
They are 4, 3, and 2, so that's 9.
Okay. +5 for your skill bonus for scouting.
+5 because I have scouting. So is that 14?
That is 14.
And I'll spend a spark to make it a 15.
And before we get to that, Rama, did you, at the top of this game, in-story game day, did you commit sparks to Devoted Bond?
I did. I'm back up to 6 sparks in the bond.
Yes, great. And just to be clear from our mission 0, which was not broadcast, everyone is back up to full health, full sparks, all that good stuff. Cool. So you get to 15. Great. All right. So what you get to see is, Crash, you're looking down, and I mean, you're up. Like, you're a solid 45 feet above the base level of the floor below you. Okay, so you're up there. You see kind of like the small humans moving around, and then you see the elemental marshal Cinder, who you met with the day you emerged. For our audience at home, each school, which is the different classes of characters, has what's called a marshal. This is a rank 7 Phoenix, the highest rank you can achieve as a Phoenix. And they are usually tasked, they're permanently garrisoned and billeted here at Pyre with a larger responsibility. Cinder, being an elemental marshal, is in charge of ash sorcery and maintaining the Imperial Flame, and specifically how how this wing is going to get to their destination. Cinder approaches. He is flanked by 3 adepts who all have like charts and are doing math. And one of them has a big pouch of ash, and the other is just there in case something needs to happen, just ready to help out the marshal. Cinder's done this a million times before. Probably literally a million. Dude's over 1,000 years old. He's been around for a minute. He walks up with his cane. He's got a little bit of a bent over back. He's definitely old, a little bit of a dowager's hump. Not great posture. Makes his way to the Imperial Flame, and this is routine for him. Routine for him, but this is the first time any of you are seeing it. He reaches into the bag almost absentmindedly and scatters a handful of ash into the Imperial Flame, and immediately it ignites and ruptures even more. It also starts to change. There's different colors in the fire now of green, yellow, deep red, orange, blue occasionally, flickering and lapping at the sky. Edef's, again, doing calculations, making observations, talking, communicating something to him. So the rest of you, this just looks like something happening, but Crash, you can really observe. He's doing very intricate hand details. He's performing a longer form ceremony around this fire. Even though it's very casual for him, you know that his movements are extraordinarily precise and that this is not the task of someone lesser than him. This is something that only he could do. And it ignites and it grows fire. It goes higher and higher and higher, almost to the point where the fire is now eye level to you. The pole that you are connected to extends out into the flame now, so much so that the metal is heating up and that trail of red from heated metal is slowly inching its way back. And just as you're taking this all in, the candle erupts into a red flame. And you hear Wilhelm from the corner going, "Go, go, go, go!" Smoke, I believe you're first.
Smoke is first. To the group, Smoke looks at their wingmates, and they say, in the Crucible, my world was fire. This is home. And they're going to take a running leap into the fire. And it looks freeing, like a cannonball, like a kid jumping into a pool. Like there is no inhibition here. And in fact, I think I would like, if I can, use a skill specialty of athletics here to make it like a graceful leap, Addie.
Do it.
Yay, great. So my skill specialty, just for the audience, is Strength and Shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and use a 4 in Grace. But because my skill specialty is Strength, I have a talent of Bitter Strength, which means that I can make a spread, use 1 card as a Strength card, regardless of its actual suit. Yeah. So going to go ahead and use that Grace. And then I will go ahead and use a 2 in Strength. And so that's a 6 that I'm getting from that.
And what are your skill specialties again?
My skill specialties are Athletics, Fear, Shadows, and Death.
Okay, so we're going to add 5 for Athletics.
Yeah.
Athletics or Fear, honestly, because you're conquering fear, and there's a few ways you can do it. The skills don't stack, unfortunately. You can't do all of these at once. But I'll definitely give you 5 for Athletics. And by Athletics, I mean the unbridled energy of a murder toddler on Pixie Sticks. So you run, and you've never done it before. This wasn't something you did in your innocent, carefree childhood days, but for whatever reason, you're like, screw it. You do a gainer, so like a forward flip, so that you're going into the fire face down.
Beautiful.
And we'll get to you and what you experience in just a second, but to the rest of you, Smoke is gone.
All right. I look back at the other two, and I just kind of give Vale a reassuring pat on the shoulder. And then I say, by the way, it's been 300 years for me. It's time to live a little. And then I turn and I run off of the platform. And I also have an acrobatic who would like to do some flips.
Hell yes. I love how your first mission, you're like, okay, we'll save the world, but we're gonna stunt first.
It's gonna be fun.
All right, go ahead and give me your spread.
All right. I have a 3 and a 2 plain strength cards. I have yeah. So I have another strength card, tough as nails trait,
Okay.
which gives me another card to draw. Never
Okay.
gives draw one card with this card in a combat spread. Never gives up. I'm gonna excuse me. I'm gonna hold on to the one I just drew, but I'm gonna use these 3. So I have 5, and then tough as nails. During my turn, I can burn a spark and discard this card. I don't have any conditions, so I'm not going to use it that way. But I am going to say tough as nails narratively. This is definitely, basically, my first death being as violently nature-driven as it was, with the tsunami, being swept away by a tsunami. That moment of weird release of like unbridled fear kind of turned on this thrill seeker sense in me, and it made me want to do things like this. And so that's the toughest nails, more like a psychological thing in this case.
Got it. I love it. I love that. Now, bear in mind, a standard skill check is 3 cards. If you're using a trait card, that means that's on top of those 3. So if you have another card you want to use, you can use it. Yeah.
Do I have to only use strength, or can I use grace?
If it's a skill, you can use both. If it's one of your 4 primary skill specialties, you can use both. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then I'll use. Oh, yeah. I'll bump it up with a 4 grace card.
All right. So what's your total?
Okay. So I have 10. Nope.
Okay.
9.
9.
9.
Okay.
And Spark Daddy, if I may use a spark.
Yes. How can I help you? I am Spark Daddy. Please.
I'd like to make a spark withdrawal, Spark Daddy.
Yes. All right. So go ahead and take 2 of your own sparks back.
All right. Thank you. Is our max?
I believe we started this even by being like, this is the Spark Banker, and we have quickly escalated to Spark Daddy.
I will credit where it's due. Sam Belev, who played the Devoted in my home game, with Spark Bank as a term, they were extraordinarily happy that y'all were running with it, but Spark Daddy is y'all's, so I love that. I love that.
Thank you, Sam.
All right. So, with the aid of your Spark Daddy, that gets you over that threshold of this skill check. Here's what I'll say. If you've ever been caught in a riptide, or if you've ever been caught in a big swell on a shore, a very shallower shore reef break wave, you'll notice there's that moment where the wave swells and it feels like slow motion, and then it crashes hard. And that's what you feel. You start to move slow, but just like that swell that overtook you and took your life, you're inverting that. You are the swell. You are the crash now. And you get to decide when you move. And what everybody else sees is a walk, and then feet hitting the ground, and then a blur as the forceful Phoenix is the fastest one around and into the fire. And Crash will describe what that means to you in just a second. I think Vale is up next.
So since Crash took the time to reassure me, I'm going to turn and use my observation skill to see how Rama's doing before I go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead and give me that. Go ahead and give me that what sees.
This is 3, right? 3 cards?
Yeah, 3 cards for skill check.
Would this be intellect?
Observation? Yeah, for shrouded, I think that's more of an intellect thing.
Okay, 4 intellect.
Okay, thank you for going.
To 8.
Great.
11.
Great, okay.
And then the 5 for the observation skill.
16. Fantastic. Okay, and you're looking at Rama, and what are you trying to determine? Just state of mind, how they are?
Yes, state of mind. Do they need me to say anything? Do I have an idea of what to say would be helpful?
All right, so I'm gonna have Rama describe this then. So Rama, like with a 16, and just so the audience knows, advancements in advancements in these things tend to happen in intervals of 5. So a 16 being over 15. The average mortal is mostly capable of a 10 to 15, 15 on the super high end. A 15 for a Phoenix is standard, like highly professional observant is kind of what you determine. So Rama, why don't you go ahead and tell Vale what things about you that seem relevant to that level of discovery, right? Like maybe there's things about your backstory that they can intone or your mental state of being. I'll leave that up to you. And then if we feel like that's not quite enough, we can figure out what else to describe.
Yeah. So you look at Rama and her face remains placid. So much of her is hidden, like her eyes are always shut, but you can see the sort of like the very small tremor as her eyes sort of like, you can see her eyes moving beneath her eyelids as she's kind of flitting around. You can see this like thinly veiled panic across a sort of smooth face. Her hands are like white knuckle on her staff. And she keeps looking down at the shadows that are being cast by her lantern. And the thing that you're sort of able to just intuit is that she feels like she's not going to do this, but it is absolutely movement like born of obligation. And she seems resigned and sort of tired. And there's a lot of hesitation, and a lot of it is caught up with like her sense of duty towards you all and not any of her own volition. Like if she was acting of her own accord, she would turn and walk away and like calm herself down. So you just see a lot of like going through the motions as she is sort of she's sort of possessed by the spirit to take care of you all, but does not want this and looks deeply uncomfortable.
Okay, so Vale's going to put her hand on Rama's shoulder, and she's going to look into her closed eyes and say, if they didn't think we could do this, they wouldn't have let us come back. If they didn't think we could take care of each other, they wouldn't have put us together. Relax. And then she just dives right in.
Thanks. Dope.
Fantastic. So these skill checks are not purely for, it was not my idea to have you do skill checks, but the fact that you're doing them, I'm going to give a benefit to this, and yours included, Aaron. I think that is a great example. As a matter of fact, Aaron, go ahead and take a spark for that. For the audience at home, I give out sparks like candy when I reward good roleplay. And not that Revity and Eliza didn't, but they're going to have other benefits based on what they did specifically. So you go in. Rama, you're alone. How would you like to enter the fire?
I think devoid of the rest of the group, like her body just sort of locksteps moves toward them, and then she goes out to the edge. And there's no sense of like joy or thrill, just the pull towards people. And she kind of looks down at her shoulder where Vale touched her. And no one else can see it, but her eyes open for just a second, and they're full of like this bright, warm light. And she kind of gives a little sigh and then just steps forward and off the plank.
Got it. You fall into the fire. And even though your entrances were entirely your own, marked by your personality, your experiences, your reaction to being what you are now, the process of falling and what happens is remarkably similar. So for all of you, this is what you have in common. You drop into the fire. It doesn't feel hot at first. The rope extends, and there's a moment where you stop your descent. But then what happens is as you stop, you spin as the rope unravels. This janky, shitty rope unravels. And what you notice, not all of you, but some of you who are more observant or scoutful, notice that inside these ropes was ash. And it sprays over you and coats you. And as it's done, and as its contents have blanketed you in a thin covering of ash, the rope snaps, and you fall fast. And now it's hot. It feels like you fell quite a while. Not dissimilar from the descent you felt like when you came into this world from the Crucible. But this time, it doesn't decelerate. If you've ever been on one of those really stupid water slides where the floor drops out and you just hit the thing immediately, it feels like that, only less fun. And all of you, at the same time, hit cold concrete or stone, because this is not the modern world, and I forget that sometimes. You hit cold stone. But this is a populated area, which means there are immediately adepts there that throw blankets on you. They help you rise up. You're a little disoriented from the jump, but there are adepts and guardians there to aid you. We're going to fast forward a little bit now, because we are a 2-hour show. They get you up. They get you seated. They have water for you. You don't need to drink, but sometimes the act of drinking is comforting to you. So those of you who want to can have some water. They give you a small map that has a very clear path to don't mind if I do. They give you actually, yeah, screw it. Everybody has more. Oh, it's okay. Oh, I didn't see it. It's okay. It's my wife. It's okay.
Hydrate, y'all.
Hydrate. Everybody hydrate. Super important.
No,
Really,
I'm a
this-
writer.
really, this is
Caffeinate.
Yeah, well, I've already reached my caffeination limit. Really, this is just one long PSA for hydration. Y'all have had it too good for too long. So, so with all that said, the path ahead is clear. You sort of know. The path ahead is clear. It's essentially a straight hoof. You've just got to run. Phoenixes can maneuver faster than humans. Forceful phoenixes can maneuver exceptionally faster than that. So, Eliza, you will just naturally take point on these missions. You'll sort of be the trailblazer. Actually, as a matter of fact, Eliza, go ahead and give me a scouting check.
All right. And
Normally, I
also,
would just say grace check, but it's scouting. It's pretty clear what it is.
okay. I also want to note that I forgot to add 5 to my jump deck. 5 points because, or not my spread, I should say.
Right. Yeah.
I forgot. So it's 15. That I
Got it. Yeah. No, I factor 15 for your skills.
Oh, you got it.
So you're good. Yeah,
You
I got
got
that. Yeah. So normally if a jump goes bad, you will have a condition imposed or enforced upon you. But everybody narratively did some awesome shit, so everyone's fine. So you don't have to rest particularly long. You are good to maneuver on them. So go ahead and give me just like a general scouting check. This will determine how much time it takes for you to maneuver your way there.
All right.
While she's doing that, Vale, go ahead and give me an intellect check, and we'll kind of figure out the best skill to process this one. Rama and Spoke, we're going to do your checks when we arrive.
For sure.
Bianco.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk through this because we're all still learning this game.
Before you do, I would just like to acknowledge that Keith Baker, the creator of this game, has been in chat. He just said he needs to drop off, but good luck, Wing 023. The fate of the Empire is in your hands.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I have a 4 strength. I'm going to add a 3 strength, so I'm up to 7. I'm adding a 2 strength, so that's 9. And then also one of my talents is uncanny agility. So when one of the 2 things I get with that is that I can draw a card anytime I use an action card with a value of 2 in a spread. So I drew a card. Right? Did I draw? Yeah, I did draw a card. And then I'd like to add this 2 of grace, which is a trait, blur of motion. So now I'm going to add another card.
The only 2 trait card in the game, mind you.
Dope.
Oh, really? Wow. What? That's wild. Okay.
Yeah. Because forcefuls get a bonus on 2 cards. So your rank 1 trait card, the option that you chose, is a 2. So it's the only rank 2 trait until like I think there's one like way late in game, but at starting you are the only one who has that.
That's what this one at the bottom is. The rank. Is that right? Okay. Cool. All right. Cool. So then I think I'm up to 11 now. 4, 3, 2, and 2. Is that right?
Yep.
Math is hard. Okay. 11. I was going to add, oh no, that's the new one. I'll add this to Grace. So I'm up to 13 and I draw another card.
There you go.
Oh, I just keep getting really good cards to use. Can I just keep adding? Oh wait, no. Don't I have a limit of how?
So for a skill check, it's 3 non-trait cards. So if you have,
Okay.
if you haven't hit 3 non-trait cards, get to that first, and then we can start stacking the rest on top of that. As long as you can tie it in narratively.
I actually had to take out that last 2 of Grace, because it was So this is where I'm at. Narratively, I didn't use my Never Gives Up. Draw 1 card. Use this. If I die while it is in front of me, I remain alive until the end of my next turn. I'll go ahead and use this just in case I die.
You're not going to lose it. You know what I mean? So it'll just get shuffled back into your deck when you exhaust it and come back out. And Never Gives Up. Cool. All right. So here's how I'll say. You're near sunset. You're near where you died. You know what I mean? You are near where your first life ended. It looks different. Because it's scouting, I'll also go ahead and say that based on vegetation, tree lines, everything else, you've been dead a couple hundred years. The city was built back on top of it. You could tell that after your tsunami destroyed the local area, it was rebuilt, and it was great, and then the Dread came. So it was devastated again. It has died.
Looks different on so many different levels.
It's new rubble. It's stratified layers of trauma on top of each other. However, because of the Eyrie here, a small foothold has been established. You are in a safe area to depart and hit your mission. So the cycle just keeps repeating. Just like a wave keeps lapping on the shore and draws back, laps and draws back, so too has the story of this region. And I think you... So as that happened, that's in the back of your head. And so that encourages you to realize, hey, if this town can die and come back and dying to come back, so can I. And the only thing that can stop you is you. So with that, you are a blur. You are blazing a trail as you go. Aaron, what was your intellect check?
There we go. We need to talk through this. Just for my own sanity, I get to use 1 card as an intellect card no matter what it is. So I'm going to use my number 4 Grace. And then a 3 intellect, a 7, 2 intellect, and then extensive training, which adds 5.
Okay.
Do you want me to read what's on the card?
Before you do, I want you to narratively justify extensive training. So what specifically about this journey from here to there you have extensive training in, either in life or as a Phoenix?
If isn't Sunset in view of Haven? Or Sunset is a seaside, it was a seaside city, right?
Let me consult my map.
I've only got the map that's on the back of the card.
Same. So where's Haven again? You're in, oh my God, that's all the way up.
Yeah, I'm going mostly on it being a seaside city.
Yeah, it is portside, yeah. It's near the Windaria Isles, so yeah.
So she could reasonably know the area because the way we described Haven, it was more of a seaside resort or an island resort for the well-to-do, having its own native aristocracy class. So she would know a lot about the area. And she's from further down the line, maybe 100 years after Crash. So she would know a little bit more of the rebuilding.
Gotcha. Okay, great. So I think it's extensive training in just...
Culture?
Yeah, I would say, yes, I would say that. Okay.
Or socioeconomics.
Let's go with culture.
Okay.
Because what you know to be true about the Northern Grimwald is that the Grimwald as a whole, which is the southern region of the continent, is a mixture of old culture and new. You know that deeper south you go into, it's much more densely forested and therefore much more shamanistic in nature. The northern part is a bit more cosmopolitan. You know, if you think about like Manhattan in like the 1700s, the city was down south, and what was we know as New Amsterdam was much more villagey, kind of like rural and sort of thing. So invert that. You know? So that's, I think, knowledge of that makes you aware of the roads and the transition between the densely populated city and the less densely populated kind of like foresty areas. Where you're going specifically of Lac Nyamko is, again, sort of like a bluff, a plateau with a lake in it. And because of that, you know that there's two roads that are great for human single file. So with that said, I'm going to say the other two skill checks for our arrival. You arrive without incident. The dread manifests in many ways in the south, but the path that you had kind of lucked out. Like, there's no active bone legions marching. The chant, this is a little bit too far west for the chant. The chant is mostly an Eastern Alolan thing. Certainly we're outside of the purveyance of the house gods. And Rama, you're about as far away from the fallen folk as possible. Like, the fallen folk are the Dominion of the North. You're way down south. That's not something you ever have to worry about. So, with all that in mind, you make your way to Lac Nyamko. It's pretty. It's you get the sense that like maybe this was like a meteor crater site like thousands or millions of years ago, in the sense that it's a raised area that dips down, but still has just a view of most of the Windari Bay, as well as Alona, the capital. You can even see a little bit of the fens all the way to the far, far east from here. It's lovely. It would make a really nice place if not for the fact that no one has been here in at least 3 years, if not longer. You arrive to the gates, overgrown with vegetation. You're able to clear some of that away, and then you get to the door. So, we've had 2 skill checks already. I'm going to say, let's see. I'll put it up to a vote. If Smoke or Rama wants to do anything, if you want to just open the door. If you want to do anything in preparation to that, I'll give dibs to Smoke and Rama.
I defer to the feral child.
Great. Yeah, feral child opens door.
Feral child
Feral
opens door.
child is
Okay.
not bound by the laws of D&D and does not fear doors.
Gotcha. Okay. So now we're going to get to a fun mechanic of this game called environmental effects. If every one of my players has pen and paper or notepad that they can type on, I would encourage you to do so. I am going to list 2 items that you see immediately in the room, in the main room. The door you open, by luck, happens to be the flame chamber. Boom. You are here in the very room where it happens, as it were. Partially because of our time crunch, partially just because this Eyrie is a bit more of an outpost than like a full billeted base. 2 floors, very standard construction, just 2 flat floors on top of one another. A little bit of the nice architecture with the runes and the hieroglyphics that you see in Pyre. There's a little bit of that there. I'm going to give you 2 items that are in this room. One is a tattered Dawn Command banner. And I'm going to save the other one for last because each of you are going to contribute an item that you see in this room. I'm going to start with Crash.
Sorry, I was in my notepad.
All good.
You said there was a tattered Phoneix Dawn Command banner.
Yeah, so just like a banneret, like hanging down, the very ends of it are frayed. It's very clearly Dawn Command, but it's old as hell, frayed at the ends. That's one thing you see. I would like you to look at the room and think of something that you see or that your character sees.
Okay. There's what looks like a medium-sized, I'm imagining the Ark of the Covenant from Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it's an ornate box that has 4 feet and 2 long handles on one of along one of the lengths of it. It looks like the top of it is removable. It looks heavy. It looks tarnished, covered with dust. But I noticed that.
Okay, great. All right. Let's see. Rama, go ahead and tell me what you see.
Do I know if there's a window in this room?
Yes, boarded up. Not boarded up, but like the overgrowth it created essentially shut it.
Sweet. Well, over by where a window ought to be, there's a massive, like, rusted, old-looking telescope.
Love it. Telescope. Cool. Everybody note this down because these are all elements you can interact with if a thing were to happen here. All right, cool. Vale.
In the corner farthest away from them, Vale notices this very massive bookshelf, but it's so old the wood has started to rot away, so it doesn't properly have corners, and it's starting to crack at the back so you can see through it. But there aren't any books on it. There's a lot of dust on it, like the books that were on it have just crumbled to ash.
Got it. Cool. And Smoke.
So, in this, what are the walls made of again?
Stone, locally sourced.
So we did
rock.
notice this from the outside, but now that we're on the inside, we can see this. And we see this giant crack, like spider webbing through the wall, as if like there was a point of impact. And in fact, it looks like there is something buried in the crack, but we can't see it from here right now. But it looks, it's kind of like a blood spatter at like a murder scene, I would say. It kind of, it implies that there was obviously a, like some sort of fight, or someone threw something very hard at this wall and it has stayed.
Got it. Okay, cool. And then the last thing that you see is, so the sort of Ark of Covenant box that Eliza talked about, we're gonna say that's in like up against the wall on the far side of the room. In the center of the room is their hearth, like their smaller version of the Imperial Flame. This one's much smaller, big enough for you to jump out of if this were ignited, but it's clearly not just dust, but cobwebs and sand. Like this thing has not been touched in a very, very, very long time. At least as old as that box, if not older. But the other thing you see, so that is a thing, I'm not going to say that's something you can interact with because it is just completely inert. The other thing that you see is a 3-chambered box, kind of like a bamboo steamer almost, but like square, like if you're steaming dumplings or something like that. About yay big in width, just about shoulder width apart for me, and about maybe a foot and a half high. And you hear it ticking, like manual clockwork ticking, just about that speed. And aside from that, nothing there. This does not have dust on it. This looks new. It's definitely a new element here, but it does not look like clean, polished. It looks like it is kind of like just cobbled together from random materials. What would you like to do?
I definitely want to check out what that box is.
The ticking box. You hear the tick, 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 Smoke says, imitating the sound rather than describing it.
Okay. So you approach it. Nothing seems to happen when you approach it. You don't get the sense. It has small legs underneath it, about that big. So there's no like pressure sensitive anything. There's no apparent wires. It doesn't appear to be fastened to the ground. It just looks entirely on its own. But yeah, it's there. It's ticking. You approach it. Nothing seems to happen.
Can Smoke throw a pebble at it?
Sure.
Yeah.
There's definitely a small rock about yay big. I'm not going to make you do an attack spread for it, but go ahead and throw a rock at it.
Actually, you know what? No. I think that she would like to use her talon. Actually, use
All right.
Put the talon around and use the hilt side of it.
Let's talk about your talent. Describe
your
talent to the audience, please.
So Smoke's talon is always connected with her because it's actually like a closer look will notice that it's actually like chained to her arm. but it is it's a Bhagnak, which is an ancient Indian weapon that was used by Shivaji Maharaj, and we can talk about that all we want later. But it was usually used for assassination attempts in India. And what it looks like is it looks like if you're holding it as a fist, it looks like a dagger. But when you open your hands, there's actually a second part to the weapon that is a set of like talons, or tiger talons specifically, that like emerge from your palm. So Smoke is never without it, because even if she was to drop it, it would still dangle from her arm. But she wants to use it now to tap the use the flat side of the blade to tap the bamboo box. I think
to be safe. Yeah.
World.
Now, to be clear, it's not bamboo. It is wood. It is full wood. It's similar in size and relative assembly to a steamer, but it's like whole wood. Not a kit.
She wants to like knock on it to to almost, and in fact she's going to imitate the pattern of ticking that she hears with her with the flat side of her blade.
You do that. I'm not gonna make you make a skill check for it. You do it. Nothing changes. It's fine. Doesn't seem disturbed by it. It's continuing to do what it does. The sound it makes is hollowish. There's stuff inside of it. Like you can tell this is a housing for a thing, but there's clearly stuff inside. There's like gears and motors, and something is happening. And by
so what Smoke is gonna do is Smoke is gonna take her Bagnak and like raise it above her head and look to the rest of the group like, I will slash this but like she realizes that she's part of a team now, so like she'd like the unanimous vote to smash it. So it's kind of like a, can I?
No.
No.
No. Absolutely not.
How about open? Is that an option?
Smoke looks at it and says, open. Does it open?
It does not.
Okay, well then Smoke raises
honestly,
the knife
it was
again.
a good try.
Someone better come up here and try opening it, otherwise she's just gonna try and hack through it.
I motion for Smoke to step aside, and I pull out my talon.
Please describe your talon.
So my talon is basically a throwing star, but it's in the shape of both a rose and a hurricane. There's a lot of symbols going on. It's all confusing. But basically it has like a sharp edge that's kind of in a round shape rather than sticking out their curved, sharp edges. And then the symbol of the Phoneix Dawn Command is imprinted on it. And so I take my talon, and if Smoke, do you step back? Did you already step back? Okay. And I throw it and try to like knock the top off of this box.
Give me an attack spread.
We are gonna attack. Okay.
Well, I just want to open it.
No, it's okay. That's just Rama's reaction. Like,
okay.
I'm going to count this as an attack spread, which is fine.
Great. I don't have a good attack deck, so
I believe in you.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I'm gonna get it because I actually don't have.
It's a conventional device. It is not seemingly magical. It's there. It's easy to hit. It ain't moving.
Maybe I shouldn't do this.
I'll let you second guess this, but you got to make a decision on what to do with it.
Just do it.
Well, I'm gonna fail this check, so let's see what happens when I fail it.
Okay. Yes. Let's.
I have 4 strength,
okay,
and everything else is grace. But this is a skill check, so I can use grace cards, right?
It's an attack check, so it's whatever's on your combat style card. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Attack.
Okay.
You're using your talent to hit a thing.
Strength or grace. Oh, I'm good. We're good. Okay. All right. So 4 strength.
Great.
2 grace.
Great.
Gonna draw my card. I'm gonna use this, which I just pulled, Blur of Motion.
Okay, love it. How does Blur of Motion manifest in your attack?
Well, the talon is now what I'm not the Blur of Motion, but I'm spinning this talon very fast.
Got it. Cool.
So fast they might not even see it.
That's exactly where I was going with that.
Great.
Cool. And yeah, that's it. Go ahead.
Oh, that's all I can use, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
If
2
you
cards
burn-
plus the tree.
If you
Great.
burn 1 spark, I can help and get you, because you're at what? You're at 8 now?
I'm in 8.
If you burn a
Yes.
spark, I can get you to 10.
Thanks, I'll do it.
Sweet.
Right.
So
So-
I'm going to use shared strength, and I'm burning my intellect warlock card, so you can take an extra. You
Wonderful.
add that to your spread.
Thank you.
Teamwork. Teamwork.
Yeah.
Love it, love it. This is a
And
team
she
thing
just
going
sort of goes, I mean, if you're going to. And then like a little bit of light drifts out of her talon
Oh, thanks.
to bolster.
The light
Um,
refracts off your talon and becomes this. It's almost like the light reflecting off the top of a wave. It's there and it's gone, and you take the top clean off. Did you want to do something else? I feel like I cut you off. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, I just was gonna ask. It doesn't matter. I was gonna ask if any of my specialties apply for the extra 5, but I don't think they do, and it's all right. We succeeded, so it doesn't
It's a
matter.
wooden box. It ain't going anywhere. You basically take the top off of it. It comes off clean. There's no resistance. It doesn't catch on like a part of the wood. It's gone. And with the top is exposed, you look inside, and what you see is a very conventional device. It's clockwork. It appears just like mortal craftsmanship of gears and levers and devices and sort of like an internal wind-up component. But at the very bottom is a tea light. On the very top is a small reservoir of phoenix ash. And right as you take it off, the timer's and it just does that. It just dips very lightly until a little ploof of that happens. This tea light, as soon as it makes contact, turns orange, like a deep, concentrated frozen orange juice orange. And behind you, the candle wall flickers in a random pattern. Same relative duration as what you saw at Pyre. Not exactly the same, random, because it was a random spattering of ash. And as quickly as it happened, it's over. And then you just hear the timer go. Revy, you're muted.
No, I was just saying, Smoke raises her weapon. Ever faithful. He's just on standby, ready to chop anything.
I don't have a problem with you destroying it, but why? Why is this built to do this?
It's
Other-
some type of dampening device. It's meant to cut this hearth off.
Vale, go ahead and give me an intellect spread. You're muted, Aaron.
Would hidden motion be relevant as a trait card, or should I just use it as a face card?
Great question. Hidden motion. If you want to find a way to tie hidden motion with observation, if you can narratively connect those two, I'll let you use it.
Am I looking for an object? What in the room am I looking? Am I
Your eyes are
noticing?
on this, and as a shrouded phoenix, a lore master, the Indiana Jones of the wing, your mind immediately goes to look for things that your other phoenixes wouldn't be capable of seeing.
Okay. I'm not sure I believe it was a dampening device, because thus breaking it shouldn't have necessarily turned something on. I'm kind of thinking we've walked into a trap.
Okay.
So I'm looking for, if it's a trap, there has to be a signal going somewhere. So I'm looking for something in the room that we missed other than this.
I'll buy that. Go ahead and give me the spread with that card. So
Okay.
you can use 3 regular suit cards and hidden motion on top of that, and I'll add your observation bonus. But go ahead and give me the point total on that.
Okay. Still not great. My foreign grace.
Okay.
The 2 in intellect, so I'm at 6, 7 plus 5.
That gets you to what, to 12?
Yeah.
Can anybody help her out?
I can burn some sparks.
Spark Daddy.
13, 14, 15. I need to burn 3 to get to 15.
Okay. You can, if you need to draw more into your hand, you can burn a spark from Spark Daddy and draw 2 more cards to see if you can get something a little higher in your spread.
That's as good a plan as any.
Here we go.
Let's see what you draw. You get. What'd you get?
Just a 1.
No.
What is it though? Narratively, what is it?
Oh, you're right. Seen this before. You may discard this card and add up to 3 to the value of a wingmate spread. Have I seen this before?
I'm gonna say, so that gets you to what? 14?
15.
That gets you
Isn't
15.
it? You're at
Well, no.
7 plus 5 is 12.
Wingmate spread, not her own.
Yeah, no.
Oh, shit.
So that gets you to 13, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm still incompetent.
Did you draw
Burn
2
2.
cards or just 1? I thought you could draw 2.
Yeah,
the
draw
other
2.
one's a grace card.
Oh, okay.
So the other one's great start. Okay, here's what I'm gonna say. That's fine. Go ahead and discard those. Add those to your discard pile. I would say don't burn any more sparks if you haven't already.
Mm-hmm.
You have not seen this before, but in the 10 days from the time you emerged from the pyre to now, you've been reading. There's an extensive library at the
Sounds
Grand.
like me.
Sounds like it. And you remember 2 books in particular. One, talking about sort of almost like a maker's clockwork device to dispense ashes at regular intervals. That's clearly what this is. The craftsmanship of it is purely mortal. There's nothing magical about this. This is a mortal craftsman device. However, it operates off of a working knowledge of how Phoenix sparks or Phoenix ash can be used and magical signals that it can be done. The other book that you read specifically is about strategies in war. And there is a particular maneuver based on triangulation of where to engage, of how Phoenix is engaged based on nearing Eries. You're getting a sense that the purpose of this device performed exactly what it was meant to do, which was to bring you here.
I knew it was a trap.
Is that just what you say? And we're like, oh.
Yeah, actually, Vale does say I knew, because Vale died by being trapped, so I knew it was a trap.
Rama just takes a step back.
That said, this room is empty. There does not seem to be anything here. Everything is old and dusty. There does not seem to be anything here that can harm you.
Yes.
So either we find them or they find us.
Do I have a sense, and I don't know why I should, other than I want to, and I paid a little bit of attention one time. Does Rama have a sense of how these candles work? And could she try to, if I can get these candles lit, send a pattern back to Pyre?
That is so ash sorcery and candle sorcery is pretty much the providence of an elemental phoenix.
Yeah.
That said, the lore specialty is basically like a working knowledge of all schools of magic, not too deep, You're Rama. You're a warlock, meaning you specifically have a lot of knowledge of the fallen folk. All right, and how fallen folks are spirits, sort of like semi-bound to this plane, but kind of dancing back and forth between the dusk and the daylit world, which is us. The dusk is that sort of semi-permeable ghost realm that's like next to ours, like the Upside Down, essentially. That's, you know, a lot about that, but ash sorcery, not so much. So in this case, Vale might know a little bit more about ash sorcery than you.
Okay.
You said, I'm sorry, are you done, Abria? Great. You said this was multi-tiered. This place was multi-tiered?
2 stories.
2 stories. And we have stayed mostly on the upper story, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, oh my God. Smoke turns to the group and says, well, sitting ducks get trapped. And so Smoke wants to move. And so they're going to try and see if they can, well, they want to check out the other floor to see if there's any sorts of trace, to see if they can find, like, kind of like pulling back a curtain. Like, if you're supposed to, like, the trap is supposed to be in this room, can we see if, like, the wiring of it is somewhere else? So they want to get a good lay of the land.
Absolutely. I'll tell you off the bat, this thing does not connect in any meaningful way, mechanically or physically, to anything else. It is completely 100% self-contained. That said, if you want to go upstairs, you are more than welcome to go upstairs.
I would love to go upstairs.
All right. Are you going by yourself?
Smoke is walking. If anyone would like to come, they may come.
I'd like to follow Smoke.
Yeah, Vale's not into staying in this room now that she's sure it's a trap. So
Is
anytime the group moves, she's going to.
Is there any ash left in the thing that's getting dumped into the tea light?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to empty that bad boy out and put like a thimble full of ash in my big canister. Like,
take a spark. Take a spark. Go ahead and add a spark to your pool. Cool. And, you contain up. It fills about 1/3 of 1 canister.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. You make your way upstairs. Really quickly, because it's 7 o'clock. Who has a hard out at 7:30? Anyone? You. Copy. Perfect. We're good. We're on track. We'll make our way upstairs. You get up there, and bunks, more windows with more telescopes, and you see a person lying on the ground, alive, but alone.
Smoke goes immediately to them.
You go over to them?
Yeah. But her talon is held out because she wants to know if they're okay. And she is in that phase of her life where she is trying to be a little bit more altruistic, but also murder child. So talon's out, ready to attack.
Okay. Okay. You run over.
Yeah.
You don't notice until about you're a foot away.
Great.
That the robe that they're wearing is an adept robe. They're a phoenix.
Yeah, so whoever hit them is definitely targeting specifically us phoenixes. Great.
You roll them over. Tell me what they look like.
Oh man. Okay, so they're an adept, which means they're human. And I would say they are they have long, like, golden hair that is like braided down the side. They look like they were in their late 40s. I would say that they have a smattering of like freckles across their face. And I think like Smoke looks at it for a second because it looks so much like the constellations of like a lot of the stars that they would look up at in the Crucible. And I would say that if there's anything, and I would say they would actually have like a birthmark as well that like goes up the side of their neck. And so this person is, do they look okay? Do they look pale? Are they?
They're pale. They're unconscious.
Okay.
Until you roll them over and get in their face. at which point they promptly wake up and they see a child with tiger's teeth.
With tiger's teeth.
Their eyes open for a second, just from being unconscious. They come into focus, they see you. Their eyes go wide, a slow inhale of breath, and then a giant scream. But
Smoke's hand is going to come to slap on top of their mouth to stop the scream.
give me a skill check right now.
Okay, great. Can I use grace for this? The skill check.
Strength.
Strength it is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use, bitter strength though. Okay, so I would like to go ahead and use my 4 in strength, my 2 in strength, and then because of the skill check, 3 cards, so I'd like to use my bitter strength talent to turn this 4 in grace into a strength as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So give me a point total.
My point total currently, if you include my skill specialty +5 for athletics.
I do.
Great. So that's 9, 10, 11, plus 5, 4, that's 15, exactly.
Did you put 2 non-trait cards or 3?
I got 3.
Okay, got it. Okay, I thought you had a trait card in there. Okay, cool. Perfect.
Oh, yeah.
15 on the dot.
Yeah.
Okay. Air had started to come out before the sound of his scream came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good thing. Your hand goes over their mouth. A little bit of a makes it out, but not a scream.
Great. Quiet. I'm here to help. You are an adept. I can see that by your robes. Do not be feared of my teeth. And then he's going to step back and turns to Rama and looks exactly at Rama and says, you are better at this part than I am. And then he's going to step back.
Rama, give me a grace check right now.
Hell yeah. All right. Thank you. A thing for me to do. Cool. So I'm going to go my 4 in grace, 3 in grace. Let's add inspiring. And I think she sort of steps forward. Well, I'll do that one at the end. I can use any card any one card as a grace card. So I'll add that on too. So I'm already at a 10. Plus diplomacy is 15. And I still want to do inspiring though, as she sort of steps forward and finally feels in her element, and the light coming out of her, like from her mouth and from the lantern, feels warm, and the light cast down from her talon, which is that lantern, sort of like scatters prettily and like lulls this adept into a little bit of security as she walks over and kneels to like meet his face, and just she just says, we're here, and I don't know what purpose you serve in all of this, but I want you to know that you are safe. And if there's something you need to say, something you need to let us know about, because she's still not sure like where he lies on this.
Right.
You are safe to say so, and you will be dealt with fairly. And all of you, I will burn a spark, and each of you can draw 1 card right now. Sweet.
As you do that, from his perspective, he wakes up, he sees teeth, he's about to scream, and before he can, he's muffled. And as soon as he's freed and able to scream again, the darkness is illuminated by a light. And his eyes cloaked with tears, he just sees various pools of light and dancing light and shadows. And as you're talking and as you're inspiring him, you don't know what he sees, but what he sees, the shadows that are cast out take form and movement and resemble the faces of his older brother and younger sister. They play vistas where he felt calm. They create a silhouette of him and an unidentified man holding hands and walking through a creek. And the tightness in his chest unwinds. And he exhales. And is it at that moment, Vale, that you notice as he exhales and as the light catches his face, from his mouth was a smoky black tendril, and it snaps. And the adept looks at you and says, "Thank you." At which point, Crash, you feel however your character feels and reacts to this. And after that moment where however this lands on you, you look up. And as your eyes rise up, you hear the of this marching towards you. But as the black tendril snaps and he's still coming towards you, as soon as that black smoky tendril breaks, this hulking iron figure with spikes and tendrils, with a cloak that is oily and inky, that slithers around him, immediately he begins to shrink down to 60% of his size. He's shorter than you now, Rama. And it's almost as he's crumpled, kind of like Witch King of Angmar style, like he's crumpling as he walks. He's not dead, but he has the exposed condition. And what that means, after I look it up, what that means is that he has a -2 to his defense. You are now engaged in combat with a Dread Knight, but a severely weakened Dread Knight because you have broken his fear bond. We're going to do initiative here in just a second. I need Rama and Vale. Rama, give me a spirits check, and I'm going to add +3 from your background in Scavia. And Vale, go ahead and just give me an intellect check, and we'll figure out the skill specialty in a second.
I have no more intellect cards in my hand.
Draw back up, pre-combat, go.
All right.
Sweet. I can use. Oh, cool. I do not have a lot to pull here.
I know we're running short on time, but believe me, you just got over the worst of this challenge.
Sweet. I'm going to go Grace, 4 Grace, 2, and 4 total in intellect, for a total of 8. And I will burn 2 sparks to get to 10.
You're gonna get +5 from your skill specialty, plus an additional 3 from your background. So you're adding 8 to that number. What is it at?
Okay, so that's 16. Then I feel much better. Thank you.
All right. So here's what you know. Rama, you recognize this immediately. This is a fallen folk. And that's not okay. Fallen folk do not come south at all, under any circumstance. Their province is the north. That is where they belong. It's been centuries since a confirmed physical encounter with a fallen folk, until about 4 months ago, when Wing 018 vanquished a Dread Knight from an Eyrie up in somewhere in Scotland. I'll give you the name of the town later. But they vanquished a Dread Knight that had been up there plaguing an Eyrie up there. So there is confirmed Dread Knight presence in an area up north. That's not shocking. What's shocking is that it's here in the south. That should not be happening under any natural occurrence.
Sweet.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say her talon, the light inside the lantern flickers, and she says very low in the language of the fallen folk, as she backs away. She says, "You are supposed to stay north in the lands of Rhyme. You do not belong here."
Love it. He looks up at you, and he knows you're right. I'll say for the number that you roll or that you drew, you get the sense not only does he agree, he's with you on this. You get the sense that this is not entirely his choice.
Okay.
Vale, what was your intellect check?
Was this skill or attack?
Skill.
Okay. So 4, 7, and then I want to run up to him and put my hand on him and use psychometry.
You may discard this card and burn 2 sparks to learn the history and purpose of an object you are touching when you use this in a successful attack spread. Okay, so yeah. All right, great. Okay. Wow. All right. All right. Okay.
This
Dang.
might hurt.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. Dread Knights, and very much in the last sense that a Dread Knight was encountered, they're usually never alone. They're usually the minion. Let me bring up the exact. Let me get to this. Yeah. The Dread Knight is a bodyguard of somebody or something. But what you know is that whatever he's meant to do, it isn't here. He's meant to be here to slow you down. He's a diversionary tactic at best, just like the Candlebox was. Just like your whole presence here, every moment you engage with him is by design. By someone's design.
So Vale's going to turn to everybody else and say, one of 2 things is happening. Either we're being corralled or we're being tested. If we're being tested, there's a way to win. If we're being corralled, it's going to be a fight. And he's not the fight.
As you say that, he draws his sword.
Apparently he disagrees. She pulls her talons.
All right, we're in combat. Here's the way combat in Phoenix works, and I know we got 12 minutes, but again, trust me, you're gonna fuck this dude up. So you've reduced his defense by 2. Okay, so basically 2 is a soak value. So all the points of combat damage you do will be, you'll minus 2 from it. He has 5 health levels of 3, meaning just like your health levels, you got to do 3 points of damage to burn that health level. If you do 2 points of damage, unless it's brutal, it's not quite going to diminish that health level. So you'll want to do damage in increments of 3. You do that 5 times, he drops. Also, many of his abilities that he normally has, he does not have right now because he is exposed. So with all that, let's pinata this dude. He has a speed of 2, meaning 2 Phoenixes will go, he will go. 2 Phoenixes will go, he will go. You decide initiative. It's up to you. You're a team. You decide who goes first, who goes second. For this round, at the top of the next round, you can change that order. It's very fluid. It's basically passing the torch. Decide right now who has the torch.
It should probably be me because my hand is on him, or I should probably go to the bottom of the pecking
I
order
agree. No,
because
you
I
go
just
first.
touched him.
Yeah.
Go first.
Okay.
Go first? Okay.
Yeah.
This is the last of pre-combat, so draw back up. At this point onward, you don't draw back up until the end of your combat turn. So if you want to make a kick-ass attack, that's awesome. Just know that you're leaving yourself, or if you want to make a kick-ass defense, that's fine. Just know that you're leaving yourself limited options in your attack.
Gotcha.
Okay. Defense goes first?
Well, you're attacking, so you can just
Okay.
empty the clip on this dude. Go ahead and give me attack spread. So look at your combat style, determine how many cards you can do, and what.
Okay. So say that again, Eddie.
So look at your combat style card.
Uh-huh.
Look at attack and see how many cards and of what suit you can do for your attack spread.
2 intellect cards. So I have a 3
Okay.
and a 2.
Great. Do you have any trait cards that have a name on it?
I do. I have extensive training.
Okay. How would your extensive training help you here?
There's no way that the person that I had as my mentor in the Crucible would have let me go down without knowing as much of the dread as he knew. So he would have taught me the basic enemies, although he would have taught them to me in riddles. So I didn't realize until exactly this moment that it was exactly this monster, and everything clicks in my head. So I have a pretty good idea of what its weaknesses are, although he had never encountered it in battle, so I've never encountered it in battle.
Describe the physical motions of your attack, please.
I haven't
also
mentioned
describe
Vale's
your
talons. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Vale has 2 talons that are about that long. They are carved metal. It's shiny, and it's elaborately carved at one end, which is rounded. The other end is sharp, and she typically wears it either stuck through her shawl, which I described at the beginning of the show, or stuck in her hair in a bun, which is not right now. It's just in a braid. She still has one hand on him. She's going to pull them out together and go for the softest spot she sees, which is usually the eyes or the neck.
I was just going to say, as your talons go into both eye holes, pull down. What was your total point score?
Oh gosh, 3, 4, 5, 6 with extensive training.
Got it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say your extensive training is brutal damage, meaning we're going to round up. So
Sweet.
6 minus 2 is 4, but because it's brutal, we're rounding up. So you have depleted 2 health tokens of 3 each. So 3, and then that fourth one, that little point, brutal damage, maxes out. So you go in, black oil seeps out from not only on top of the faceplate mask, but like near the neck of where it was. It's not blood. It is a fluidy, shadowy kind of resemblance. You hear a high-pitched scream, and for the first time, it knows fear. As you do that, you yank it out, and you don't yank it out clean in the same direction back. You pull out at an angle, really just to give it that brutality to it. It staggers backwards and hits my mic. After which, who's next?
I'd be down to go next.
Okay.
Right.
You
Murder child, ready to attack. No, really. Well, Eddie, I'm really excited about this spread that I'm about to hand out to you. So Smoke sees their wingmate in danger, and they see this black oil seep out. And so they're going to go ahead and use up their 3 in strength and their 3 in grace. But because this person has gone for their friend, they remember their purpose and why they are here, and they need to protect people. So they want to go for vengeance, vengeful. So they get ready to run towards this suit of armor. And you could say that the way that they do it is they are swinging their Bagnat because they want to show this person that they are reckless. And as they do, they would like to inspire fear in this person because they want them to know not to mess with their fellow wingmate. So as she does, she's going to release this like roar from the deep of her chest. And it's not the sound a tiger makes, but it sounds like a wild cat when she does.
that guttural echo.
It's gonna be feral as well.
Yeah.
So I would like to use cards.
Can I do something? I would like to help because this is the coolest spread I've ever seen.
Okay.
And I appreciate, Rama appreciates that you teed her up for a moment to connect with the adept, and she wants to return the favor and stamps down her own talon to cause a blinding flash of light to allow you a bit of cover to hit even harder. And I'm discarding Savior to add 5 to your spread.
Yes!
Okay.
Is it dead?
The numbers. So while you calculate the numbers, I'll talk to the audience here for a second.
Okay.
The way Phoenix works is that every Phoenix has a combat style that says, hey, you attack with a certain number of cards of certain suits. However, trait cards, which are a point value of 1, that have a narrative element on it. If you can justify a way to tie that card into it, you have no card limit. You can just keep stacking. I think Eliza realizes that this thing is about to die. Go ahead and give me the point value.
13.
13. Okay, 13. Actually,
Wait, did you add my 5? Does
I
that
added
include my 5?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, 1, and 1.
so I'm just because we got 4 minutes until we lose a Bria, so I'm just going to get through this quick. You run up, you're feral. So you run, and the last few steps of your run, you're actually on all fours, and you do like a tiger's run, jump. You step onto its knee, up onto your other knee, lands on its shoulder. You come down into the side of the neck with the blade, rip outward. You've got your hand, which comes down its back and rips up, like ripping up all the armor along the back. And then as you jump off, you do the arrow Flynn, like claw into its face and just slide down. It's standing, but barely. It is blinded. It is also afraid. It is going to use its turn to attempt to move. Eliza, if you wouldn't mind finishing this poor thing.
All right. Did it already move?
It's trying to, but fortunately you can move a little faster.
Oh, it tried to move during its turn. Okay. Well, all right, here we go. I'm going to do a melee attack and start with 4 grace and then add 3 grace to that. So
Okay.
that's 7.
You've already won.
What's okay? Well, can I build this?
Yes, please. Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I have a hunter card. Yeah, he's super dead. I have a hunter card, which adds 5 to the value of an attack spread. I'll just stop there.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, we're good there. I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna narratively wrap it up so we can say goodbye to Bria, and then we'll have just like 3 minutes afterwards. That's cool for everybody. Okay, cool. So it starts to run, and something very deep inside of you stirs. A purpose that you can elaborate in our next episode. And you run. And as you run, you jump, you kind of catch the back of its head with your arm. It swings your body around. Your talon, you kind of literally do a 180 around his body. Your talon catches in the neck. You fall to the ground, driving its face into the stone floor with your talon, that rose ninja star, coming down into it and severing what's left of its head into this, and it immediately collapses and melts away. You hear heavy panting from the adept, who's now fully standing, and he's catching his breath. He's very relieved from the fear that he went through. You could tell that the thing that he had been basically like a fear battery for this dreadnought, and Rama, you know this to be true of dreadnoughts. But instead of giving you thanks, he simply says, "I have to go back. They're coming for Morning View. They're coming for Morning View. You have to go back now."
Who's coming?
The Harvester. And with that, we will end part 1 of Mission 001, False Flames. Abria, thank you so much. If you need to bounce out of here, next week we'll pick up exactly where this left off. Our Phoenixes will make their way back to the Morning View Eyrie, the true target of this. But yeah, I want to thank everybody for this. Please go ahead and check out the YouTube channel for the episode of Game Gorgon where we go into description on this. Wing023, you have been fantastic in this.
You were wonderful too.
Oh, hush.
Oh my God.
This is our story. It's a collaborative game engine. That's what I love about it. Big shout out to Keith Baker, who joined us in chat. Thank you so much to Jake and everybody at QueueTimes, everybody in my personal game. Last thing I want to do, if it's all right, is I'd like to dedicate tonight's game to Sergeant First Class Frederick Louis, who passed away 15 years ago today. In addition to being a 2-time combat veteran and getting the Meritorious Service Award, he also helped make my first RPG book. So I'd like to just give him a little bit of a shout out. And but honestly, much love to all of you for joining us, and join us next week. Until then, Dawn Command, Fallout.